You're listening to BQN. Assimilate the audio.
Engage.
78 years have passed since the days of the original USS Enterprise. Now a new Galaxy starship has been designed.
Transporter Chief, beam our listeners aboard. Welcome to Galaxy Class, the Star Trek The Next Generation podcast here on the BQN. My name is Kevin. I am your host for today, and with me, as always, well, actually not as always, it's the entire motley crew. Counselor Amy Nelson, Chief Recreation Officer and Helmsman Ria Papagiorgio, and the head of 3D Printing, Joe Keegan. Hello, crew.
Hello. We're all back together.
I know we've been off for a couple of weeks, but it's worth it when we can all be back.
It's like our annual coming together.
How's everybody doing? Ria, how are things in flight school?
Intense. Last couple months have been intense. I've been working on my commercial rating, and I have my check ride for that, which will be 2 days before this episode drops. So I will either be a commercial pilot by then, or I will have failed, and I will have to retake it and pay a lot of money. So
You've got this.
Well, I hope you pass, Ria, and for everybody else, get to your bunkers.
And you don't have to worry about getting to your bunkers, because commercial pilot sounds like a big deal, but what you're thinking of that fly you on your aircraft to Las Vegas is air transport pilot, and that's like many ratings and many years down the road for me. Commercial pilot, I can do very limited things like, crop dusting and towing a banner.
Like an Independence Day, like the dad in Independence Day, except he was an alcoholic. Amy, that's another movie Amy hasn't seen.
Don't become an alcoholic.
I haven't seen it either. God willing, I will not. But if anything will drive me to drinking, it's flight school.
I'm sure you've got this. And Amy, how's retirement treating you? You're off.
Oh, doing well. I spent a week down in Maryland with my brother who serves in the Navy. Had a great time seeing the historical sites and just being Aunt Amy. He has 4 kids, so 2 nephews and 2 nieces, and I just got all the love.
Oh, fun.
That's awesome.
And Joe,
Amy,
you're on summer vacation.
I'm not entirely sure. How do we know this is actually Amy?
I know there was an issue. My Facebook got hacked and I had to start all over again. So, thank you for being my friend.
Where did we first meet?
What, you think I'm a changeling?
She said it.
Amy, tell us a secret about Joe that nobody else would know. Preferably something compromising.
Yes. Something salacious.
Yes.
I don't know.
Okay.
Well, we'll
because
trust
there are
her
no
for
secrets
now.
about me.
So changeling Amy, got it.
Yeah.
Cool.
And Joe, you're finally on summer vacation?
Yes, finally we're a weekend, aren't we? No, I don't know. Do you know when you're on summer holidays, as we call it, you just don't really care.
Right.
Exactly.
About time. Time is just this construct that passes you by. But it's very enjoyable.
I'm jealous. How about you, Kevin? How was your Canada Day? And how about the release of that Strange New Worlds Toronto episode? Just in time?
That was so much fun. I'm heading to Toronto this afternoon, so I'm hoping I can take some pictures in locations where Kirk and La'an were, because they were all at all the major tourist attractions in the city, except for the CN Tower.
Yeah.
They were at the Royal Ontario Museum. They were at Yonge Dundas Square. They were all over the theater district. It was hilarious. So.
So I heard an interview with the director of that episode who's from Toronto, and she said she made it a point to include the Lakeview restaurant and include the name, because apparently that's like a common site that gets filmed in anything that's filmed in Toronto, but it's always given a different name. So she
Right.
like, yeah, you should go there and take pictures.
Mm.
And don't blow up any bridges.
I promise. I I don't know if you heard the last Infinite Diversity I was on with Chrissy and Thad, and I said the only quibble there were a couple of geographic quibbles with the episode, and one is you wouldn't put that bridge right in the middle of downtown, like you wouldn't get enough traffic to the bridge.
Yeah,
And,
that was a big discussion point.
Yeah, and the length of time it takes to drive to Vermont from here is also, they would have been gone for at least 18 hours.
Yeah, wow.
And that's if they only spend an hour in Vermont.
Is the bridge a real thing, or is that
No, it's not a real bridge.
Okay,
Yeah.
disappointing.
Not yet.
I was very angry at that episode when they were like saying they went to Vermont. I was like, Vermont's in the US. How did they get across the border if they don't have passports? And then the next line was like, "Oh, we bribed a border guard."
Yeah.
And I was like,
Well, they would have had
okay.
to bribe two because they came back too.
Oh, yeah. Maybe it was the same guy. Maybe they had a deal.
Why
2 for
couldn't
1 special.
Pelia's shop could have been in Montreal, and then they would have had to cross a border?
It would have been
yeah.
easier.
Yeah.
No. I don't know. Anyway.
Oh well.
But it was fun, and I loved it, and it's just great seeing places I know be actual places I know, because so many times on TV and movies, Toronto is New York, or it's Chicago, or it's
Right.
any place
yeah.
but Toronto. So
Or
I like
Glasgow
that they
is
made that
Philadelphia.
joke in the episode, right? When they
Yeah.
landed, and Kirk said, "Oh, look, we're in New York." No,
Yeah.
it's obviously Toronto.
Yeah.
So that's fun. Yeah. Well, shall we just forge ahead and check and see if we have any communications?
Sure.
Logs accessed.
We have no communications. But that's okay. That's okay. We've been off for a couple weeks. Some stuff has come up, and lives get busy.
It's our
and
own
so
fault.
We're lazy.
all
That's
good.
what we're saying. We're lazy.
No, we're not lazy. We're not
Yeah.
lazy. Life
I'm lazy.
happens.
Life.
I am lazy.
Okay, you retirees and on holiday folks might be lazy, but
Last Saturday was Canada Day here, and so I was clowning all day, and it was very fun, and I made some money, a little extra spending cash to go to Star Trek Las Vegas with. So all good.
Yes, that's coming
And,
up soon.
I can't wait to see you all. Everybody's coming, right? Rhea, you're going to be there?
I hope so. I will make every effort, even if it's just for a day. Even if I have to
good.
rent a plane and fly there, which if I do, then we can go flying around. I'm serious, it'll be a blast. But yeah, we can fly over the Grand Canyon.
Still a plane?
Rent a plane. Legally rent a plane.
Oh, and then you could take us all on flights over the Grand Canyon.
Exactly. So
That's awesome.
that is a possibility. So
Ooh, that's exciting.
I'll let you know the night before, because that's when I'm getting my schedule.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, let's move ahead to our main event here.
This is the captain. Senior officers will report to my ready room immediately.
We're
And that
already
main
here.
event is Batleth Battle 32. Would you believe this is number 32?
7 billion to go.
Yep, lots to go. Well, this is the never-ending series. But that's cool, because
Which is awesome. Yeah.
it gives us something to talk about. So we are talking about Season 3, Episode 7, The Bonding, and Season 7, Episode 22, Bloodlines. So let's start with The Bonding. Would somebody like to give us a quick summary of The Bonding? Don't
I
all
can
put your
do
hands up
that.
at once.
I can do that because
Joe is going to do the bonding.
That's the episode I've watched.
I figured-
most recently.
Yeah. I figured Amy would jump on this because of all the Troy moments. But
Yeah. But Joe, go ahead.
Amy, you can jump in with the Troy moments.
Okay,
Yes,
I will.
at various
Excellent.
points. So basically, there's an away team down on the planet, and they've got an archaeologist with them, Marla Astor, and there's something wrong on the planet. And Troy was like, "Oh my goodness, beam them up right now! There's disaster." And Captain Picard spends 5 minutes walking about the bridge, deciding then to beam them up, not when Troy said, "Right, beam them up now, you have to act quick." So yeah, that was a bit. Turns out there's been an explosion from an ancient kind of anti-personnel device, and Marla Astor's dead. And Marla Astor's husband is also dead from 5 years ago. And they've got a little son, whose name I can't remember. Little boy, he's 12. Jeremy Astor, thank you. And Worf feels really guilty because there's nobody he can take revenge against, because the device was left over from a long ago battle, and it turns out there's some kind of entity on the planet that wants to impersonate Marla Astor and come aboard and steal Jeremy away to look after him, because the entity feels his grief. I know, Kevin, I feel the same. Yeah, and so there's a big to and fro. The entity or the entities come aboard and want to take over the Enterprise, and then they come to some sort of deal, and the entity goes away, and Jeremy is fine. And then they goes through the bonding ceremony with Worf with Klingon candles. The end. That's pretty much it.
Very good. I'm glad that you mentioned Troy, because that was the very first note. Emergency beam out, thanks to Troy.
Yes.
But he didn't listen to her and didn't do it quick enough.
Yeah.
He waited until somebody else on the planet said beam us up, right?
Yeah.
Always listen to Troy. That's what the lesson of this episode.
Yes.
Troy knows. Troy's connected.
So really, Picard killed Marla Astor, but anyway.
She could have survived. I did like Worf's kind of battle damage that he had. It looked as if something had exploded and he was covered in little kind of shrapnel shots. It was cool. It worked for me.
Nice.
So, we always break this down into guest stars and importance to canon, and I think we talk about quality of plot as well. So why don't we start with guest stars? Who is in this episode?
Yeah.
Well-
Who's that cute kid, Jeremy Astor?
I wonder if he's cute now
Jeremy
because he's
Astor's
my
played
age.
by Gabriel Damon, yes. And he was born in 1976, so he's 47 years old. He's older
Good
than
Star
me,
Trek age.
not quite as old as Amy. It's in between the
And
two
he's
of us.
Rhea's age. And he may or may not have turned into a handsome young man. We'll see.
I really want to. He's got an IMDb page. Let me see, what has he been in?
Oh, he was the voice of Littlefoot in The Land Before Time.
Oh, that's
Not
nice.
familiar with it.
But
It's
he's
the
not
movie
really
about
done-
dinosaurs, cute dinosaurs.
Yeah, he's not done much since 2006. He's not done anything since 2006. And before that, it was kind of spotty. It was Danny and Danny Boy, a short thing. No, I
He
don't
was in
really-
RoboCop 2 and also Newsies.
Oh.
And
The only thing he's been in that I've actually. Oh, the only thing he's
Go
been in
ahead.
that I've actually seen is General Hospital.
That's the only thing you have seen, though.
Yeah, it's the only one I have seen. All the rest of
Yes,
these
the
I've
only
never
show
heard
that
of.
you've ever seen.
Pretty much, aside from Star Trek and Kojak.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, one of the links on his Memory Alpha page is to his MySpace page. I didn't know
Oh,
people
nice.
still had MySpace pages.
I've never had a MySpace page.
But
Oh,
Gabriel Damon
Oh
does
my gosh,
have a
I gotta see if
MySpace
this
page.
works. Oh, it's opening up. Oh my gosh, there it is. I should
Yes.
totally friend him on MySpace.
On MySpace?
If I remember how to sign in. Oh my gosh, what was my login back? Anyway, we'll do that.
So,
later.
yeah, so it looks like he was a pretty prolific child actor, and child actors grow up and sometimes don't get cast.
We also, Marla Astor's played by Susan Powell.
Yeah,
And
she's
Susan Powell
great.
was born on the 12th of July, so it'll be her birthday in a few
Oh.
days, in 1947 in
That's the
North
day of my-
Carolina.
Check ride, so maybe that's good luck.
Cool. What's she been in?
She's been
She was
in
the-
T.J. Hooker.
Yeah, $6 Million Man.
Yes.
Oh, she was
Quincy.
on Emergency back in the day. That was a show I used to
Yes,
watch when I was a
yes.
little kid.
Oh, she was on a TV drama with Rosalind Cho called
With
Twirl.
Keiko.
Oh, sorry, Rhea. She was a Days of Our Lives actor, not a General Hospital. So
I used to watch Days of Our Lives till it went behind the paywall.
Oh, she was in Airwolf. Do you remember Airwolf?
Oh
Oh
yeah.
yes.
It was like the Knight Rider, but with a helicopter.
Yeah.
And there was a motorbike one, wasn't there?
She was on Days of Our Lives?
That's what it
Let's
says.
see.
Huh.
In
2 episodes in
1993.
1993.
Oh, okay. I was about to say, I watched that pretty religiously, so interesting.
It looks like,
What-
looking at her IMDb page, she hasn't been active since the 90s either. Her latest credit is an episode of Ellen, and that's Ellen the sitcom, not Ellen the TV talk show.
Oh,
What was the? I'm stuck on this now. Knight Rider was the car. Airwolf was the helicopter. What was the motorbike?
Chips?
No, there was a super motorbike, like a Knight Rider style motorbike thing.
Huh.
I will come back to you guys. Talk amongst yourselves.
Yes, go for it.
All right. Well, you know who else we had in this episode that I'm always a fan of whenever I see him, and I don't know exactly how to pronounce his name, but Rachin Asapiomanwait. He plays Nelson. You see him in a lot of episodes in the background.
Oh.
But the character was named Nelson in a season 4 episode in First Contact, but he was in a handful of episodes and cut out of a handful more.
I need to look at him to see. Oh, that dude.
Yeah. You just
Recurring
kind of see him in the
background
background there.
well, that's cool. I didn't know there was a character named Nelson.
Yeah.
Cool.
Very
Oh, like your one of your descendants.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. There you go, Amy.
I just thought Nelson from The Simpsons.
So those are your guest stars. I don't think they don't really stand out as anyone to. They seem like typical TV guest stars who got lots of guest starring appearances and didn't really become big mega stars, which is fine. There's lots of great working actors.
Mm-hmm.
Let's
Can I cycle back to the Knight Rider Airwolf thing?
please? What was the motorcycle?
Yes.
It's called Street Hawk.
Street.
Oh.
Tagline is a desk-bound cop secretly fights crime as a test pilot for a prototype combat motorcycle.
Nice.
Wow.
That show probably only lasted one season, right? Because I don't remember it.
722 episodes.
Are you kidding me?
Really?
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
13 episodes.
Okay, that makes more
Um,
sense.
Well, oh.
I don't even recognise anybody that's in it. Rex Smith, Richard Ventura, Joe Regalbuto.
Oh, Rex Smith.
I
I
can't
bet this was a
recognise his
made in.
face.
I bet this was a made in Toronto show.
Oh, I don't know, but George Clooney was in one episode
Oh.
of the 13, so he was in most of the series.
He's in 1/13 of the shows.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
cool.
wow.
Well, there you go.
Nice.
That's me
Excellent.
finished.
Well, shall we move on then to the importance to canon here?
Yes.
Yes.
What do we think?
This has a lot of importance to canon because of
Yeah.
Wesley Crusher and Beverly and Jack. And so and Picard, so very similar where we learn, Picard gave the news to Wesley, and to have Wesley open up and talk about it, definitely very important to canon.
Yes. When I was watching this, I'm like, wow, did they, was Terry Matalas watching this, writing Picard season 3? Because there was so much, just like Amy said. And let me see if there's anything else in my notes here. Great use of Wesley, too. It's like probably, well, so this is season 3, episode 5. So this is early on And it's season 3 when TNG really starts to like come together and really get good. And I'm gonna be honest, like when I saw which 2 episodes were going against each other, I'm like, 2 meh episodes. But what always happens when I rewatch them for this is like, oh my gosh, these are gold mines. And
Yes.
this one is such. Troy is still very. I sense this. I sense that, which kind of fades away over time. But she actually like counsels and does counseling things
Yeah,
and is
this
a
is a
counselor. And
very
it was
good Troy episode. You know, I love the line where, she was talking to Worf and he's like, I don't want to talk about my feelings and da 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 da. And she's like, Captain Picard talks to me. And
Yeah.
I'm like, that's right.
Mhm.
Even though we don't see it, you know, when he
Yes.
has issues, he is talking to her, and Worf needs to talk to her as well. And I think she did good with him because, you know, she sort of
Yeah.
got going with the bonding rust eye.
I'm less sold on
Yeah. And what?
the whole importance to canon with this one. Yeah, there are Troy bits, but I think we always get Troy bits. I think we underestimate Troy's importance throughout the entire 179 episodes. But yeah, I don't think it's necessarily important to canon.
Well, it was
I
good
think-
character development. I think.
I think the big
Same with the
issue for
Wesley
me
stuff.
is that we never follow up with Jeremy ever again. Like Worf has made him part of his family, and then never mentions him again.
Suppose they get shipped off.
Which
to
kind
his
of
aunt and uncle on
establishes
Earth.
Worf's. Yeah.
This is true. This is pre-Alexander, so this is.
It does establish Worf's pattern of parenthood. Just ship him off to a relative on Earth, but yeah, and never speak to him
there
again.
you go.
Yeah.
So
And a
that's
couple other-
important. That's important in terms
Yeah.
of canon. Worf's parenting or lack.
Yes. And there was and then like you said, the Wesley, the death of Jack Crusher, the whole Picard backstory with all of that, and there was kind of more obscure, but there was a tie into the TOS episode, the immunity syndrome, or kind of a similar conversation, where in the immunity syndrome, Spock says to Kirk that if humans felt the death of large groups as strongly as they felt the death of one, it might have rendered your human history a little less bloody. And then in this episode, Data and Riker have kind of a similar conversation when Data's asking about, why does it matter if you knew someone better? Shouldn't the loss of any human? Riker says the same kind of thing. Maybe if we felt the loss of life as keenly as we felt the death of one close to us, human history would be a lot less bloody. So, I don't know.
Yeah, I wrote down that same quote, and it's important, I think, to understand, and we get to see that with Data, where he's like, how well someone is important in understanding the impact of death, because he's like, everyone keeps on asking me, how well did you know her? So it's true. Like if we felt the impact as acutely, then there would be less bloodshed, because losing someone is extremely painful. And it sort of, just reminded me, like when Beverly was talking to Wesley, and it's like, it's good to talk about it. And I just wanted to, give a big shout out, Kevin, to you and other Trek family. When I lost my mother, you just feel so alone. And I'm sure with Jeremy losing his father and his mother, like he's just got to be this island and feels like he has no home. But knowing that others have been through something similar and has lost someone as important, really, it helped me many times as I was going through the grief of loss of my mother.
Oh yeah, I was the same way a couple of years ago when it happened to me. So
yeah,
it was a really nice moment between Picard and Jeremy, where he says, "I feel alone now. I don't have anybody," and Picard says, "Not on the Enterprise. Nobody's ever alone." It's a nice moment.
Yeah.
That means there's no privacy on the Enterprise, and everybody's
pretty much
in everybody's business.
Well, that's what family
Just like
does.
being in a village.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we
can
had
I
one of the
cycle
few
back?
mother.
Sorry,
Oh,
Rhea.
am I on a delay?
Yeah,
I'm
Rhea,
not.
you're on a delay.
Yeah,
I'm so
massive
sorry,
delay,
you
Rhea. I'm
guys.
sorry. I'm not cutting you off all the time. It's just
No.
like you're in last week, I think.
No,
I'm
Joe's
sorry.
rude. He's cutting you off every second.
Yeah. I just wanted
I'm
to
in
cycle
this-
back
yeah.
to Street Hawk for a minute. It was
Are there connections?
no, none. It
Star
was filmed
Trek
in
Street Hawk.
Los Angeles. Just
Okay.
for our 3 listeners that are listening.
Good to
Now,
know.
did the lead character of Street Hawk lose his mother? Is that why he's on a quest for vengeance?
Sure. Yeah, that happened every episode.
Shosh dich batl shosh, which was the
Gesundheit.
something about their mothers. And speaking of mothers, we actually had a rare Beverly being a mother moment here
Yeah.
with Wesley, which was nice. Like there were so many good character moments in this episode I totally had forgotten about.
Yeah, same.
Agreed.
Yeah, I like also, I mean, yeah, this is season 3, and we're still sort of wondering, is it okay to have children on board, this Galaxy class ship? And it's sort of this debate. And Jeremy's like, well, I was prepared. And Wesley was like, yeah, I was prepared. I was taught, we all take on these risks. But did Jeremy make the choice? His parents made the choice for him.
Yeah.
And so we're going back and forth where it's like, well, they're on board and yeah, we try and prepare them, but how can you be prepared for death of your parents?
Especially as a child. And then do you live every day wondering if your mommy or daddy's going to come home? Is that a good way to prepare them? Yeah, that seems
And
a
it's
little
even more shocking
psychologically
because she was
challenging.
doing something so safe as an archaeological dig on a planet. She wasn't being down in a war zone. She's going to dig up some fossils or some ancient relics. So it's even more shocking.
So I had one more little point here that doesn't have to do with anything, but the race, the species on the planet, they called them the Koinoinians. And that word jumped out at me right away because it's how English language often mispronounces koinonia, which means, so it means like community, but like a deep, intimate fellowship, deep, intimate kind of community. And so I was watching, and I'd never noticed the name of the species before, but watching the episode with that in mind. And I think that was kind of a theme of the episode, which on the Enterprise, there's a koinonia between everyone. I can't, koinonia. There's no oi sound in the Greek language. Stop butchering it. Anyway, but then the whole bonding ritual, I had to write this down, Rustai ritual, seemed to be the same about that kind of koinonia, where, now that makes us brothers. And they said the little thing they said about their mothers. And but anyway, that deep, intimate fellowship that we see now starting to develop between the crew of the Enterprise.
Well, and that was, you're saying the name of the beings on the planet?
Yeah.
That totally makes sense why that being would, become his mother to try and comfort him and to, make him one of their own.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, she had good motives, just the wrong actions.
Agreed.
Do you think they ate quinoa?
Very possibly.
So,
It is a good,
one thing that
protein
bugged me
source.
with this episode was when Jeremy's watching his home videos, and it's obviously at a time with the mom, the dad, and looking at that video, which had to have been 5 years because his father, had been gone 5 years. Jeremy did not look like a 7-year-old.
No,
Did
and
not
his
look
mother
like
was
he
wearing the
5
same
years
outfit.
younger.
Was she?
Yeah. Yes, she was.
It's her one replicator pattern. Every day she just hits the button.
I guess she really likes it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I get you take some liberties when you're filming. So then they would have had to cast another actor as Jeremy as well,
Right.
and try to find somebody that looks like this kid.
Yeah.
I just assumed it wasn't more than 5 years ago, and it was just one of these wee floating, like hover cameras. She was telling
But
me,
you
Bobby.
could hear
Maybe
the
it's an
dad's
AI
voice.
photo.
Oh, could you hear the dad's voice?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe it was an AI photo that artificially aged Jeremy in the picture.
Or
Yeah.
maybe
Sure.
it wasn't Jeremy's dad, it was his mom's boyfriend at the time.
That could be too. Anyway, it's an interesting little bit of issue there. I was just looking at Memory Alpha, the source for all things Star Trek, and there have been a couple of mentions of Jeremy in books and comics afterwards. In an old DC comic, he gets romantic advice from Worf, because if you're going to go to anyone for romantic advice, Worf is the guy to go to. In the book Diplomatic Implausibility, we learn that he's become very close with the Rozhenkos. So, which makes
that would
sense.
make
They're
sense.
living on Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nothing to pop by Russia.
Well, and Marla Astor was mentioned in Ethics
Yes.
later. So,
So there we go. That seems to be to wrap up the bonding. Anything else? Any final words on the bonding before we move on?
I did
we
note
did have-
that there is some pretty darn good music in this episode, so I recognize that. It was good.
Nice.
Excellent. Rhea?
And we had one more data grammatical error. Which we had a lot of. And I'm pretty sure this is a grammatical error. He said something about regardless of whom has died. And I don't think that's the right use of whom. I think you say like to whom or whatever, but I
Yes.
noticed
I
a
never
ton
know.
of grammatical errors in
Whom
TNG
needs to be
from
the
Data.
object of a sentence, whereas who is the subject?
yes.
I just avoid using it altogether because I'm never entirely sure.
Yes,
That's
I
why
will
I put-
rearrange my sentence to not use it.
Yes. Same with apostrophes. If I don't know when to use apostrophes, I just put them everywhere.
Or commas.
Yeah. Commas and apostrophes randomly inserted.
Okay.
All right, so shall we
All
move
right.
on then to our second episode, which is Bloodlines?
Oh, it's not a street hawk?
Yes.
No.
It's not Street Hawk.
It's-
There are no
that's next
super
week, Joe.
motorcycles in Star Trek.
Yes. Excited.
So, Amy, did you want to mention what happens in Bloodlines?
Oh, this one's gonna be tough. Okay, so this is the one where Picard finds out that he has this son, Jason, and it's brought to our attention by Bach, who is big ears, Ferengi. Yeah.
Mhm.
And thank you. It's been a while since I watched. And so then they do a DNA test, and it's like, yeah, this is your son. And Bach wants to kill Jason because Picard killed Bach's son. And yeah, help me out. What else? That's sort of the main.
That's
gist
the
of it.
main thrust. So it's Picard
Yeah.
coming to grips with the fact that he has a son he's never known, and trying to bond with a man who is his family but isn't. And then of course things get resolved, and oh wait, you're not his son, and we all live happily ever after.
Yeah,
Yes.
and the supposed mother, well, not supposed, Jason's mother, Miranda
Vigo, yeah.
Yes, and apparently this was just a 2-week shore leave romance. Ooh, Picard getting some action.
Yeah. So that's interesting. I mean, who saw Shades of Picard season 3 in this episode?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
It was basically the plot of Picard season 3 with a slightly different outcome, which made me laugh so much. Both of these episodes just happen to be so Picard season 3. It's kind of cool they're going against each other.
Yeah, I thought it was quite funny to have Picard go to Beverly for parenting advice
Yes.
when Beverly hid his son from him for 25 years.
Yes. That was like one of the things I wrote down was Beverly taking notes. Because when you think about it, so, you could recap this episode as Picard hooks up with someone, knocks her up. She never tells him. 25 years later, someone's trying to kill him because he's Picard's son. And Picard finds out and, for the first time that he has a son, ... But I can't help but wonder if Beverly looked back on this whole incident when she found out she was pregnant with Jack and it was like, nah, we don't need a Bach, repeat situation here. And, I'll just, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, there were a lot of similarities. Like Jason has a criminal record,
Yep.
and Jack is on the fringe and doing things his own way. And both Jack and Jason are like, there's no point in getting acquainted with you. Like, I have lived my whole life without you. I don't need you now. So there were those common themes.
And Picard
Yes.
made the same baldness joke to both of them.
Oh, yes.
Oh my gosh, yes.
They both have lovely heads of hair, so yeah.
Yeah, funny.
Now,
That's funny.
remind me, how did Jason have the same DNA? How was that trick?
So the Ferengi did
Fuck.
something medically to him. They injected him with something that faked his DNA pattern, and that's what created the sickness that they went back to sickbay for to have checked out, and that's when Beverly discovered, oh, this was all a fake.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So while let's talk about the actor who played Jason.
Yeah.
He's our main guest star here. His name is Ken Oland.
He's 65.
Oh, wow.
Well, this episode did air over 30 years ago,
Yeah.
almost 30 years ago. So he looks really familiar to me, but I think he just looks a lot like the actor Jason Ritter. Don't you think? That's the vibe I was getting from him. Anyway, he's another one of these actors who's done a lot of guest stars. But Joe, you might be interested to know that he was the lead on a show called Super Force, which was a show that was from the year 1990, but it was set in the far-off future of 2020.
Ooh.
And in this show, he played an astronaut who became a vigilante when he returns from a mission to learn his brother, who was a cop, had been murdered.
Oh.
Whoa.
There were
They
48
ride magic
episodes
motorcycles?
of Super Force. Well, the image on IMDb does look like he's got some kind of high-tech motorcycle.
Ooh. There
What
you
was
go,
that called
Joe.
again? I want to
It's
watch
called
that.
Super Force.
Super Force.
And there were 48 episodes of Super Force, so it lasted 3 times as long.
And
as
when was
straight
that produced?
90 to 92. So almost around the
Okay.
same time as... Now, I guess this show had just been canceled and he got the guest shot on Star Trek.
Nice.
He was also in the A-Team and Airwolf.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
We've got a theme here.
Yeah.
He'd also been on an episode of Ellen,
Oh, wow.
Doogie Howser,
Doogie Howser, yeah.
What was
14
Supercarrier?
episodes of
Does
Young and
anybody...
the Restless.
Ooh, I watched Young and the Restless.
Simon and Simon.
Nice.
He was on Supercarrier about
Love
US
Boat?
Navy pilots on the USS Georgetown.
A love boat.
No, everyone's been
Oh,
on the Love Boat.
Fall Guy.
Yes. Ooh. Some Lee Majors action. I'm still waiting for someone to be on Kojak.
No, this guy's a little bit too young to have been on Kojak. His
Yeah.
credits start in 83 with an episode of Matt Houston.
Ooh, he was in the 1987 television special Gunsmoke Return to Dodge. Love Gunsmoke.
Ooh.
Nice.
Never heard of
Nice.
it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's probably my favorite TV show of all time.
Really?
But,
I
yeah.
thought it was General
Yeah.
Hospital.
No, that's up there though.
Or Star Trek, the original
No, I don't
series.
know why I watched that. That's up there.
So many favourites.
But yeah. See, we also had
So,
Lee
yeah.
Ehrenberg in this episode that played
Yes.
Bach, and he's played a number of Ferengi and a Tellarite in mostly in
Yeah.
TNG. The Tellarite he played in Enterprise, and he played something in Voyager. I don't know what species that is.
Is it
But-
Melon? Pelk?
Wait, what's that noise?
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
I don't hear it.
I don't know. Oh, the
Okay,
I
are
hear
we
it.
okay?
I don't hear it.
Okay.
yeah. Listeners,
So-
does it bother you?
So one thing that was pretty cool that I liked, remember when Data sees this series of flashing and it's in Bazal, a Ferengi code?
Mm-hmm.
It just reminded me of Species 10C and how they communicate with light and darkness.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know, I just... Because, I love how Species 10C communicates. So.
Yeah, that was very cool.
Reminded
Maybe that's
me
the
of
sound
Arrival.
we're hearing right now.
I want to know about the ethics of transporting someone against their will. Like Jason was rock climbing when they beamed him to the ship,
Oh.
right? He was by himself, and I guess technically it was dangerous, but he took on that danger on his own. Nobody asked his permission. Nobody contacted him first and said, "Hey, we're going to transport you up to this starship." They just went ahead and did it. Don't you think they should have made an attempt to meet him first before they just beam him onto the ship?
Well, I
No.
suppose two things. He's not Starfleet, so whatever communicator on him. And the data says that he was 2 kilometres below the surface or 20 kilometres below the surface.
Yeah.
So they maybe just assumed that he was trapped deep within the earth.
But I did like that when he was beamed up, he was in that climbing position with his back to us. Like, oh,
Yep. And we had that in the bonding too, when they beamed him up from the planet's surface, and all the away mission, all the away team were kind of in different positions. But yeah,
I always imagined that the transporter would kind of put you back.
make
Like
sure you have
standing
good
up straight.
posture when you.
Yeah, like it would reorientate your body and like. So imagine you fell out a plane, yeah.
Well, like we
And
see
you're-
that in Star Trek 09 when they...
Yeah.
I
Like,
grabbed
they-
3 different people from 2 different locations onto one transporter pad.
Well remembered.
have to rewatch that. And we see early in TOS too on the Corbomite maneuver when they're beaming onto the other ship and they duck down on the transporter pad because the other ship is shorter. But, yeah. Also, real quick before we go past the guest stars, we did have Tracy Lee Coco as Lieutenant Junior Grade J in this episode. So,
Really?
yeah.
I saw... Oh, yeah. I wrote that down. Yeah, she's playing Sandra Rhodes. Wait. No.
No, that's a different act. That was a different actor.
Yeah,
character.
okay.
Yeah.
Why did I...
Sandra Rhodes was the security agent that Jason was hitting on while she was
Oh,
trying to
that's
guard
right.
him.
Yeah.
and he was putting the moves on Troy, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's the kind of
We've
guy he
got-
is.
Peter Slutzker was the Ferengi in this episode. He was Birta. I think that's the Ferengi at their Starfleet equivalent, who says that Bok was not a daemon anymore and he was in prison for a while.
Right.
Nothing to do with us.
So
There's also
interesting-
been a few other Ferengi, Nibor in Menage a Troy, Rhaegar in Suspicions, the Ferengi scientist, and the Krenim Commandant in Year of Hell.
Oh. We see him without
from
makeup.
Voyager. Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that the actor who's playing Bach in this episode is not the same actor that played Bach in the season 1 episode.
I know. I
Really?
wonder why that is.
That's a good question. Let's find out. Maybe the
Yeah.
first
Scheduling
actor
conflict.
was unavailable.
Well, while you look that up, I think it's interesting that Peter Slutzker changed his name.
To that.
What did he change it to? Yeah, to
Oh, it's an
I just
interesting
saw it now.
choice to change
To
to.
Peter Marks. No, he changed it to Peter Marks,
Oh, okay, that
but
makes more
originally
sense.
it was Peter Slutzker.
Mm.
Yeah, that was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
It doesn't. There's no. I'm looking at box listing on Memory Alpha, and there's no reason given as to why the actor was changed.
Mm.
Yeah. I wonder if because Ehrenberg had played so many other Ferengi, if they just happen to have, the headpiece that fit, so they brought him back.
Well, Frank Corsentino was the first Bach, and he played multiple Ferengi on the show as well.
Oh, interesting. Now I'm looking at the different pictures of Ehrenberg's Ferengi, and it looks like they all have the same headpiece.
Mm.
Which is...
Talking about headpieces,
We'll just
now
have to get him on the show.
They make these kind of latex molded, and they glue it all, and they kind of blend it all, and give you makeup and make it look seamless. Strange New Worlds. When was it? The one where Future Pike comes back.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, in his Rathakan outfit.
The season finale of season 1.
Yes. Thank you. I'm trying to remember.
And Something of Mercy and Quantum of Solace. No, yeah.
The Romulan commander guy on the ship that they're fighting before it gets destroyed by the Romulan fleet. Mm-hmm. His Romulan eyebrows are the most terrible makeup attempt that I've ever seen in Star Trek.
Yes, the eyebrows.
Wow.
I remember that.
They're awful. You can see now they use what is it? The eyebrows are on like lace, and then they glue the lace on, and then they cut it to fit. It's like there's big lace bits left around his eyebrows. It's awful. That's all I see when I watch it.
Let me see.
Anyways,
So,
that's
do you
my
think the
complaint.
Bloodlines has any importance to canon?
Let's see here. Aside from being the script for season 3.
That's the thing. It's so much similar to the season 3 Picard plot that I can't imagine that that the writers didn't have that episode in mind when they were creating Jack Crusher.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's kind of forgettable. I keep on getting it mixed up with the episode where the Stargazer comes back and there's the mind control device.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, this is a sequel to that.
Right.
Yeah. Well, so then there's
that's
that tie into
Yes.
canon.
I suppose.
Got the whole Bach. Yeah.
On Memory Alpha, they call this episode 2 of the Box Revenge plot line.
Mm.
Yeah.
So it's
The battle, that was that episode.
Yes.
Yep.
So I guess that is pretty important. We finally got a follow-up on an episode, which is rare in TNG.
Yeah, for a show that there wasn't a lot of continuity between episodes, this is one of the rare ones.
We did get the only couple notes that I had on that were Beverly did not look happy when it first found out that Picard had a son with someone else.
Right.
And then we do get Riker, the straight up quote, "Red alert, shields up," just like in the Penthe. He said it just the same way. But yeah, that's about it.
So
Limited notes on this one.
mildly important. Okay.
Yeah. Well, should we see what the listeners had to say?
Let's take a look at the listeners. So, why don't you go ahead and read the first one there?
Sure. Danny Galea says, "The bonding is an underrated gem of TNG. The crew works together every day, and if someone in your workplace dies suddenly dies violently, everyone is affected. Plus, this is the Picard who is uncomfortable around children and having to face them after a parent has died instead of the crotchety making an ass of himself in front of children, Picard of season 1. Yes, yes, yes. I agree too. It's an underrated gem. I didn't even appreciate it until yesterday. And it ties up a lot of threads too. I mean, Wesley gets to kind of come to terms with his feelings toward Picard and related to the loss of his father, and yeah, Picard having to be the bearer of bad news to children that you're an orphan now.
Yeah.
No wonder he doesn't like to be around them.
Yeah. Amy, do you want to take the next one?
All right. Brian Smith writes, the bonding actually shows Troy in her job as a counselor, trying to help the kid adjust. Excellent point, Brian. Why didn't they have him stay with a temporary foster family on the ship or have someone with him on for a while is a question I have. Well, Brian, that is a good question. The sci-fi aliens come as a mother to make amends for her death was good. The worst part of the episode is the Worf. You are part of my family now. So does that mean in DS9, when he's banished and exiled, this kid suffers too? What if he got a job working with Klingons? Bloodlines was just, does Picard maybe have a son? And a revenge plot from Damon Bach. And he says, I forgot to add, it also gives Wesley a major role in accepting the loss of his father to help the kid's loss of his mother.
Mm-hmm. Good points all around.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wondered that too, about why were they just leaving him alone in his quarters? The kid's like, what, 12 years old?
Yeah. You would think he would have friends or classmates that somebody's parents would have taken him in.
Well, and I would assume that there would be a procedure, like Brian, you bring up, like a foster, or he's got to be staying with someone. He can't just stay by himself. He's too young.
Yeah.
I think he probably could. I think he's too young. In terms of being safe on the ship.
Oh,
you could
yeah,
put it in,
safety, but I'm talking, emotionally. Mentally.
Yeah, having companionship. Yeah. But you could leave him in his quarters and set his quarters to, like, child mode.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you can, like, replicate...
You can't replicate too much candy.
Yeah, that's that kind of thing. And he can't go out wandering the ship, and if he does want to go out, I'll let someday.
And aliens can't just come in pretending to be your mother?
Well, that would be useful.
Yeah. Details.
Well, we'll leave the results of the listener vote for the end here. So that leaves us with, let's say, closing arguments and the vote. Anybody have anything they want to say in defense of their favorite episode here?
All right. Well, I'll go since I'm sure everyone already knows. It's going to be the Troy episode of the bonding. Seriously, very, very good episode and brings up a lot of important issues that we as watchers can relate to. This death and talking about it and kids and Wesley and just everything. I think it is way more important to canon because of the Crusher storyline there. So my vote is definitely the bonding.
Nice. Who would like to go next?
I'll go next. I agree with Amy. The bonding. We have a season 3 versus a season 7 episode, and the season 3 had so much more character depth and so much more, like Amy said, like relatable, universally relatable themes. We get Troy moments. We get Wesley probably in one of his most meaningful appearances on the ship. The one time Beverly acts like a mother. Mm-hmm. There's just so much good mined out of the bonding. And although I think Picard's season 3 drew from both of these episodes, I think that, just overall the bonding was just a lot more meaningful. Bloodlines just seemed a little bit kind of forced. It's season 7. Let's get everybody and their third cousin on the show. Oh, we need to make up a kid for Picard. I like the resolution of the Bach storyline, but I'm voting for the bonding.
Understand. Joe.
I think this is I can't even remember the episode because it doesn't interest me at all. Bloodlines is one of those episodes of which I think there are 3. I don't really know what's happening most of the time. I think I just don't care to watch it again, which is maybe why I didn't watch it this time around. I watched the first 10 minutes, then realised I was going to be late for podcasting. So yeah, the bonding is just a much better episode, isn't it? And I think for the reasons you guys have given, in terms of all the character development, and it does feel like a loss. There's this character that you've never met before who's just died, but it's the way everybody's affected by it on the ship. They feel a bit empty.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think my vote goes to. Are we doing votes? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. My vote is going with the bonding.
Well, that makes it unanimous then.
Woo!
Yeah, the bonding is a much it's a much more, what's the word I'm looking for? It's a sympathetic is sort of the word I want to use. Like, it's the emotionality of the bonding is much better than Bloodlines. You never feel for Jason Vigo because he just comes off as a bit of an ass.
Yeah.
And Jeremy, I feel sorry for.
Yeah.
And I empathize with the kids. So yeah, it's the bonding all the way. The result of the listener poll, which was done on Facebook several weeks ago because it was supposed to happen a while ago, was heavily in favor of the bonding. It was only 2 people voted for Bloodlines. So there we go.
That was Kelvin and Davey. Just saying.
Kelvin
saying.
can't be right about every.
Right?
Incoming transmission.
So we would love to hear what you thought of today's episode, and we hope you will join our Facebook group, the BQN Collective. Continue our discussion there. You can also tweet your thoughts to @GalaxyClassPod, or you can follow the network on Twitter and Instagram @BQN Podcasts. So, Amy, where can people find you when you are... I was going to say something that might have brought up emotions in you, so I'm going to change that. Where can people find you when you are helping young people deal with their emotions?
Well, when I'm not doing that, see that's sad because I did that as a teacher.
I know. I was going to say something that would have made you even sadder, though.
Yeah.
So
Well, you can find me here on the network where I'm co-hosting All Good Things and Union Federation. I am on Twitter @Miss Amy Nelson, but my favorite place, the BQN Collective, our Facebook group. And Joe, where can people find you when you're scaling a mountainside and being transported without your permission?
On the transporter pad because I've just been beamed out. When I'm not doing that, though, you can email me, joepodcasts@gmail.com. You can tweet me on the Twitter or the Instagram thing @JoeyJoe77UK, or the other one, the Federation Council Chambers. The BQN Collective. Seriously,
yeah. Wow.
for so long.
It's been that long since you podcasted with us.
It's been a while. Sorry, I'm not even paying attention. And Rhea, where can people find you when you have been? Doing the de-thingying IEDs.
I don't know what that meant. What were those words that came out of his mouth?
Yeah,
I think that was in Scottish.
Disarming IEDs.
Okay, when I'm not disarming IEDs, improvised explosive
Not
devices.
IUDs. IEDs.
Not IDKs.
Nice.
WTF. LOL. When I'm not doing that, you'll find me for the next few days on studying lockdown. And you'll find me in the BQN Collective when I am usually sitting on the toilet taking a study break, posting silly Star Trek memes. I think I've said too much. So, Kevin,
TMI.
where can people find you? Yeah, totally. Kevin, where can people find you when you are not shuttling the remnants of photonic explosives away from certain sites in Toronto, or stopping by the Lakeview restaurant for a night, big old serving of poutine?
I could eat some poutine right now. I haven't had breakfast yet. But when I'm not devouring delicious mounds of fries, gravy, and cheese curds, I am on Galaxy Class, which is this podcast you're listening to right now. I'm also on True North Nerds, which is a show I do with some local friends about all the geekery and nerdity that's probably non-Star Trek. We just saw Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny last week, so I'm sure that's what we'll be talking about this week. And so you can find me there. So why don't we, while we're here, why don't we listen to a promo about what's happening all around our network?
What shows are on BQN, you ask? Well, here's a rundown of some podcasts you might be interested in. All Good Things, a Star Trek Universe podcast covering all of Trek, hosted by Amy, Mark, Christos, and Kelvin. Bargain Bin Gamer, a YouTube show hosted by Davey, a self-proclaimed gamer who specializes in reviewing and showcasing affordable video games. If you're lost in the Delta Quadrant, check out The Captain's Couch, a Star Trek Voyager podcast hosted by Jeremiah sitting on Janeway's Ready Room couch. Cinema Z, a film discussion and review podcast showcasing films you probably missed but should definitely check out, hosted by Mark, Matt, and Laz. Beam Aboard the Galaxy Class, a Star Trek Next Generation podcast covering all of TNG, hosted by Amy, Joe, Rhea, and Kevin. History with the Zilagis, a snippet of historical events from around the world, hosted by Chrissy and Jason. For the newest Trek coverage, check out Infinite Diversity, hosted by Chrissy and Thad. Test your Trek knowledge with Trexperts Quiz, a Star Trek quiz show hosted and written by Davey. Union Federation, covering all things Star Trek and the Orville, which we all know is really a Star Trek show, hosted by Kyle, Kevin, Amy, and Haley. Spill the Tea with What's the Tea, Bev, a Trek current events and fan interview show hosted by Christos. And for our Patreon members, we have The Hive Mind, BQN's monthly roundtable discussion with hosts and listeners. It's Green, a cornucopia of topics hosted by Mark, and Amy's Math Moments, a quick look at math moments in Star Trek, hosted by Amy. We know you have a choice of podcasts to choose from, and we thank you for listening to BQN. Assimilate the audio.
I know that
Priority
voice.
1 message from Starfleet coming in on secured channel.
If you'd like to help us keep all our shows coming to you each week, as you heard narrated by the wonderful Amy Nelson, you can become a patron of the network on Patreon. With a monthly Patreon subscription of $5 or more, you can join our meetings of the Hive Mind on the second Saturday of each month. For more details, go to patreon.com/BQN. A huge shout out to our very own associate producers, Jim McMahon of the Trivia and Davey Willett of the Trivia. We're so grateful for your support.
At this time, we would like to thank our executive producers who make this all possible, and a special thanks to Mark White for our artwork and Joe Keegan for our beautiful show music.
So thank you for beaming aboard the Galaxy Class, and until next time...
Shosh, jich, bat, shosh! Stay classy, Galaxy.
On the Enterprise, you're never alone.
Great joy and gratitude.
You know as well as I do, Bach, he's not my son.